There are moments in life when the mind becomes heavy, not because the world has changed, but because perception has grown cloudy. A traveler once believed that certain objects placed in certain corners could invite fortune or block misfortune. Salt, simple and pure, became a symbol in this belief, sometimes welcomed, sometimes feared. But understand this clearly: it is never the salt that shapes destiny, nor the object that opens or closes the doors of life. What blocks your good fortune is not what you place in your home, but what you place in your mind. When confusion settles within, even the purest things appear as obstacles. When fear grows, even silence feels like an enemy. And when expectation becomes rigid, life begins to feel like it is resisting you. If you place salt anywhere with the belief that it can control your future, you have already given power to illusion. And illusion, once trusted, becomes a chain not of the world, but of thought. Good fortune does not arrive as something to be caught or stored. It flows naturally where there is clarity, balance, and awareness. Just as water does not stay in a closed hand, blessings do not remain in a closed mind. So instead of asking, "Where should I place this?" ask, "What am I holding within myself?" Release the need to control unseen forces. Release the habit of assigning meaning to every object. Let your awareness become simple, like still water reflecting reality without distortion. When the mind is uncluttered, life does not need rituals to open doors. Those doors open on their own. And when you stop fearing small things outside, you begin to notice the vast peace already present within. Good fortune in the coming time is not something to be arranged, it is something to be allowed. Let go of what binds your attention. Return to clarity. And you will see nothing was ever blocking your path except the weight of your own assumptions. Luck is not controlled by objects, or any physical item has no power to block or bring good fortune, only belief gives it meaning. What many people misunderstand is the belief that life's fortune can be controlled through external objects, as if destiny responds to physical symbols rather than inner state. A simple grain of salt, a stone, a thread, or any other material thing is often given meaning far beyond its natural existence. Yet in truth, these things remain what they have always been: ordinary elements of the world, untouched by human hope or fear. When the mind is uncertain, it begins to search for control in places where control does not exist. It assigns power to objects, rituals, and symbols, believing that luck can be directed like water through channels. But life does not respond to such commands. It flows according to conditions far deeper than surface actions. What we call luck is often nothing more than the result of clarity, timing, awareness, and preparation meeting opportunity. These arise not from objects, but from the state of one's inner world. When someone believes that placing salt in a certain place can block misfortune or invite success, the belief itself becomes heavier than the object. The mind begins to depend on that action, and slowly attention shifts away from real causes and real solutions. Instead of understanding patterns, improving decisions, or cultivating awareness, energy is spent on symbolic control. This is how illusion quietly grows, not through harm, but through misplaced trust. If life changes after a ritual, it is not the ritual that has changed life, but the mind that has changed its perception. A confident mind begins to notice opportunities it once ignored. A fearful mind begins to see threats where none exist. The outer world remains the same, yet the inner lens reshapes everything. Objects have no intention. Salt does not decide to block or allow fortune. It dissolves, reacts, and exists according to natural law, not human desire. When we give it meaning beyond its nature, we step away from direct understanding of life and enter a world of assumption. True freedom begins when this projection ends. When the mind no longer depends on symbols to feel secure, it starts to observe reality more clearly. Actions become intentional rather than ritualistic. Choices become conscious rather than superstitious. And slowly, a deeper confidence arises, not from controlling the outside world, but from understanding that the outside world was never the source of control in the first place. In this clarity, nothing ordinary becomes powerful, and nothing powerful becomes feared. Everything returns to its natural place, and the mind rests in simple awareness, no longer needing objects to carry the weight of destiny. The mind creates obstacles, not things. Fear, confusion, and rigid thinking are what truly make life feel blocked or difficult. When the mind becomes restless, it begins to search for meaning in everything it touches. A simple habit like placing salt in a corner or using it in a ritual can slowly grow into a belief that unseen forces are being managed. But life does not operate like a machine responding to symbols. It responds to conditions, awareness, and the quality of attention we bring into each moment. Many people carry the idea that good fortune can be blocked or unlocked by physical actions alone. Yet what truly shapes experience is not the object itself, but the inner state behind the action. If fear is present, even the most positive ritual becomes a reflection of fear. If clarity is present, even the simplest moment becomes balanced and grounded. The mind is always the real creator of meaning, while objects remain neutral. When attention is placed on external control, inner understanding weakens. A person may begin to believe that success or failure depends on arrangements outside themselves. This creates dependency on rituals rather than responsibility for awareness. Slowly, life feels unpredictable not because it has changed, but because perception has become scattered. Salt, like any other natural element, follows its own nature. It dissolves, it absorbs, it interacts according to physical laws, not human intention. When meaning is projected onto it beyond its function, the mind begins to step away from reality and enter imagination. This imagination can feel powerful, but it is not rooted in truth. Over time, it can create unnecessary worry or hope tied to actions that have no real influence on outcomes. True understanding begins when this projection is seen clearly. When a person recognizes that no object carries hidden control over destiny, attention returns to where it belongs within awareness itself. Life becomes less about managing symbols and more about understanding patterns, choices, and consequences. In this clarity, effort replaces superstition. Observation replaces assumption. Instead of asking what object can bring luck, the question naturally shifts toward what action, mindset, or understanding can improve the present moment. This shift is subtle but powerful, because it brings responsibility back to where it has always been. Nothing external needs to be feared or worshipped for its supposed influence. Everything around us is simply part of a larger system of nature, moving according to cause and effect. When the mind stops assigning hidden power to things, it becomes lighter, more stable, and more capable of seeing reality without distortion. In this state, life is no longer a puzzle of hidden signs. It becomes a direct experience shaped by awareness rather than illusion and guided by understanding rather than fear. Misplaced belief leads to illusion. Trusting rituals or objects to control destiny strengthens illusion and weakens inner clarity. When people feel uncertain about their future, the mind often searches for simple explanations to feel secure. It tries to connect outcomes with visible actions, believing that if something is placed, moved, or removed, destiny will respond accordingly. This is how symbolic habits begin to form, where ordinary objects are assigned invisible power. Yet life does not function through symbols alone. It functions through awareness, intention, and the continuous flow of cause and effect that cannot be controlled by surface actions. A substance like salt is part of nature, shaped by physical processes, not by human expectation. It can preserve, cleanse, or season, but it cannot decide fortune or misfortune. When belief transforms it into a carrier of luck or blockage, the mind begins to build meaning where none naturally exists. This meaning may feel comforting or fearful, but it is still constructed internally, not discovered externally. The deeper issue is not the object itself, but the dependence on the idea that external arrangements can govern inner reality. When attention is placed on controlling symbols, awareness of actual life patterns becomes weaker. A person may begin to overlook real factors that influence their experiences, such as decisions, habits, relationships, and perception. Instead, energy is directed toward rituals that give an illusion of control without addressing the actual roots of change. Over time, this creates a subtle division in the mind. One part seeks control through objects, while another part experiences confusion when results do not match expectations. This conflict does not come from the world outside, but from misunderstanding how life actually operates. The world does not rearrange itself based on symbolic actions, it responds to conditions that are often more subtle and consistent than visible rituals. When this is understood, attention begins to shift. Instead of asking what object can bring good fortune, the focus moves toward what clarity can be developed within. Instead of relying on external arrangements, there is a growing awareness of internal patterns, thoughts, reactions, and choices that shape experience far more directly than physical symbols ever could. In this shift, superstition naturally loses its strength. Not because it is forcefully rejected, but because it is seen clearly for what it is, a mental projection. Once this is recognized, there is no need to fear ordinary objects or assign them hidden influence. They return to their natural role as part of the physical world, neither guiding destiny nor blocking it. What remains is a simpler way of living where attention is no longer scattered across imagined forces but gathered into direct understanding. In this clarity, life feels less like something to decode and more like something to experience fully, without unnecessary layers of fear or illusion shaping perception. True flow of good fortune comes from inner balance, calmness, awareness, and a clear mind naturally allow life to feel more open and fortunate. When the mind becomes uncertain, it often seeks stability in patterns that feel easy to control. It may attach meaning to small actions, objects, or rituals, believing they can influence unseen outcomes. This tendency is natural because uncertainty creates discomfort, and the mind tries to reduce that discomfort by building explanations. However, not every explanation reflects reality. Some are simply mental constructions that feel true because they provide emotional relief. A simple substance like salt exists in nature without intention or awareness. It does not carry purpose beyond its physical properties. It dissolves, absorbs, preserves, and interacts according to natural laws. Yet when the mind assigns symbolic meaning to it, the object appears to gain influence it does not actually possess. This is not a change in the object, but a change in perception. The deeper issue arises when people begin to rely on these symbolic meanings as if they were real forces shaping their lives. Instead of observing their thoughts, actions, and choices, attention shifts toward external control. This shift creates a subtle dependency, where inner responsibility is replaced by external ritual. Life then begins to feel unpredictable, not because it has become more chaotic, but because understanding has been directed away from its actual source. In reality, what people call good fortune is often the result of awareness meeting opportunity. It comes from timing, preparation, decisions, and perception working together. These elements cannot be controlled by physical objects, but they can be influenced by clarity of mind. When awareness is strong, choices become more aligned with reality. When awareness is clouded, even simple situations may seem confusing or difficult. Believing that objects can block or unlock destiny creates a misunderstanding of how life functions. It places power outside the self in things that have no intention or control. This can lead to unnecessary fear or dependence, where every small action feels loaded with hidden consequences. Over time, this weakens the ability to see life directly. When this pattern is observed clearly, a shift happens. The mind begins to question whether meaning is coming from reality or from interpretation. Slowly, attention moves away from symbolic control and returns to direct experience. Instead of asking what object must be placed or avoided, the focus turns toward what is actually happening in thoughts, emotions, and actions. In this clarity, external things lose their imagined authority. They remain what they have always been, simple elements of the physical world. Nothing more is added to them and nothing is taken away. The mind no longer projects fear or hope onto them. What remains is a quieter way of seeing. Life is no longer interpreted through layers of assumption, but understood through direct awareness. And in that simplicity there is less confusion, less dependency, and a more stable connection to reality as it is, not as it is imagined to be. Freedom comes from letting go of control. When you stop trying to control unseen forces and release assumptions, peace and clarity arise naturally. When human beings feel a lack of control over their circumstances, the mind often begins to build patterns of meaning that feel safe and predictable. It tries to connect outcomes with visible actions, as if every result must have a simple physical trigger. This is where beliefs around objects, rituals, and symbolic practices begin to form. A small thing like salt placed in a certain location may start to be seen as something capable of influencing luck, fortune, or misfortune. Yet this perception is not rooted in the object itself, but in the mind's need to find certainty in an uncertain world. In reality, salt is just a natural substance shaped by physical processes. It has no awareness, no intention, and no ability to influence human destiny. It can preserve food, enhance taste, or interact chemically, but it does not carry hidden forces of luck or blockage. When the mind assigns such power to it, what is being observed is not the truth of the object, but the projection of human belief onto it. This projection becomes stronger when life feels unpredictable. Instead of examining internal patterns such as thoughts, habits, decisions, and emotional reactions, attention shifts outward toward symbolic control. The mind begins to feel that if certain objects are placed correctly or avoided, life will become safer or more successful. This creates an illusion of control that feels comforting in the short term but weakens deeper understanding in the long term. True conditions that shape experience are far more subtle. They arise from awareness, perception, timing, and the quality of choices made in everyday life. When awareness is clear, decisions naturally align with reality and outcomes tend to improve because actions are grounded in understanding rather than fear. When awareness is clouded by superstition or assumption, attention becomes divided and unnecessary anxiety begins to shape perception. Believing that external objects can block or unlock fortune creates distance from this understanding. It shifts responsibility away from awareness and places it onto things that have no capacity to carry it. Over time, this can lead to a mindset where life feels governed by hidden rules, even when those rules are only mental constructs. When this pattern is seen clearly, something important changes. The mind begins to recognize that meaning is being assigned, not discovered. It starts to separate reality from interpretation. Objects return to their natural state as simple parts of the physical world, no longer carrying imagined influence over destiny. In this clarity, attention naturally turns inward. Instead of managing symbols, there is observation of thought itself. Instead of controlling external arrangements, there is understanding of internal responses. Life becomes less about decoding signs and more about direct awareness of what is actually happening. From this perspective, nothing ordinary holds hidden power, and nothing external dictates fate. What shapes experience is the quality of presence, the clarity of perception, and the sincerity of action. And when these are understood, the need to rely on symbolic control gradually dissolves, leaving behind a quieter, more grounded way of living.